For generations, the sprawling expanse of land my family owned had been a sanctuary, a living testament to the hard work and dreams of those who came before us. Nestled in a picturesque valley, it was not just soil and timber, it was the site where our ancestors forged their lives, building a legacy that spanned over a century. Each season brought rituals of planting and harvesting, family gatherings around fires, laughter echoing through the trees, and stories told under starlit skies. This land was imbued with memories, secrets, and a sense of belonging that transcended mere ownership. My great-grandparents were among the first to settle here when this area was little more than untouched wilderness. They envisioned a homestead that would be passed down through generations. Their dreams materialized into a thriving farm that nurtured not only crops but also community connections. As time marched on, they divided the land among their children, ensuring that every branch of our family tree had roots in this soil. By the time I inherited it from my parents, I understood that this piece of earth held far more than just financial value, it represented our family's identity. However, amid mounting pressures in the region for new housing developments, I could feel an unsettling change in the air. The once tranquil surroundings began to shift as developers eyed our land with increasing interest. It was during one such meeting with members of the Homeowners Association, HOA, that I first grasped how precarious our situation had become. The HOA unveiled plans to construct 156 homes on parcels adjacent to our property, a project touted as bringing growth and community revitalization. They painted vivid pictures of modern living spaces adorned with parks and recreational facilities intended to benefit everyone involved. Yet beneath their polished presentation lay an uncomfortable truth: they included sections of my family's land within their proposed project area without consultation or consent. With each passing day leading up to their developmental plan's approval, I felt my emotional connection waver under the weight of impending change. The idea that so many homes would rise where my family had cultivated generations seemed not only unjust but also invasive to our heritage. During sleepless nights filled with contemplation, echoes of past conversations haunted me, my grandparents explaining how sacred land is meant to be cherished and protected. Before long, unease blossomed into action. I decided that something had to be done about this encroachment on my family's history and legacy. Little did I know then that my struggle against an entire development plan would uncover revelations tied deeply into the very fabric of my ancestry, and lead me straight into discovering what lay hidden beneath our feet, a trap set a century ago. The plans unveiled by the Homeowners Association, HOA, were as ambitious as they were alarming. In a series of glossy brochures and community meetings, they detailed a vision for constructing 156 new homes on the land surrounding ours. Their proposal painted a picture of vibrant community life, complete with parks, walking trails, and recreational facilities designed to accommodate families of all sizes. According to their projections, this development would not only enhance property values but also attract new residents and businesses, thereby invigorating the local economy. In their presentations, HOA representatives spoke passionately about the need for more housing in our rapidly growing town. They emphasized that with an increasing population, the demand for affordable housing was at an all-time high, and their project was positioned as a necessary solution. They described a future where young families could settle down, where children would play in safe neighborhoods, and where the community would thrive. The allure of modern living spaces with amenities was undeniably appealing, and many community members were swept up in the enthusiasm of the proposal. However, beneath the surface of their well-rehearsed pitches lay unsettling truths that many in attendance failed to recognize. The proposed development encroached upon land that had been part of my family's heritage for generations. When the HOA first approached us about their plans, a meeting arranged under the guise of seeking our input, I was struck by their casual disregard for our history. They presented maps illustrating how they intended to seamlessly integrate our land into their vision, emphasizing how it would simply become part of a larger community initiative. When I expressed my concerns during that initial meeting about the impact on our property and its significance to my family's legacy, I was met with rehearsed sympathies that felt hollow. The HOA representatives insisted that this development was in the best interest of everyone involved. They claimed it would create opportunities for collaboration and growth within a united neighborhood. To them, my family's history seemed like an inconvenient detail easily overshadowed by their grand plans. As weeks turned into months and discussions swirled around project approval, I felt increasingly isolated. The enthusiasm surrounding the development consumed community conversations, pushing aside concerns about losing not just land but a part of what defined us as a family. While many applauded the new homes as a step toward progress, I watched helplessly as my family's past collided with future ambitions. In my determination to protect what mattered most, I began to research not only the potential ramifications of this housing project but also the histories buried beneath our feet, literally and figuratively, as they intertwined with what lay ahead. Little did I know that my quest for answers would soon lead me down an unforeseen path involving secrets from long ago. As news of the HOA's plans spread through our family, the initial reaction was a mixture of disbelief and anger. Around the table, voices raised in concern as we discussed the implications of losing not just our land but a piece of our identity. My parents, who had devoted their lives to preserving this legacy, could hardly fathom that developers would prioritize profit over history. My mother's eyes brimmed with tears as she recalled summer days spent picking fruits from the trees planted by my great-grandparents, trees that now faced potential uprooting. My father, typically stoic, paced the living room, running his hands through his hair in frustration. This land has nurtured us for generations. What will we have left if they flatten it for houses? He exclaimed. Each family member shared anecdotes about significant moments tied to our property, weddings celebrated under its sprawling oaks, childhood adventures exploring its hidden corners, and quiet moments of reflection beside the creek that wound through our land. The consensus was clear: we needed to act. This development was not just an encroachment on physical space, it symbolized a broader threat to our heritage and community values. As discussions turned serious, we began making plans to mobilize support within our extended family and neighbors who understood the significance of preserving historical landmarks. We organized meetings with relatives and friends to discuss strategies for opposing the project. During these gatherings, I felt a renewed sense of purpose as shared stories sparked passionate conversations about our family's roots in this land. We made lists of all those who could be allies, people who had also reaped the benefits of living near our homestead and appreciated its historical significance. Simultaneously, we delved into research about land rights and local regulations governing development projects. I ventured into town hall meetings where discussions on zoning laws and community input were taking place. Each piece of information gathered felt like ammunition in our battle against what seemed like an unstoppable force. I found myself immersed in learning how to navigate bureaucratic procedures while attempting to give voice to my family's history amid rising tides of enthusiasm for new developments. Yet, behind my determination lay an underlying fear: the prospect of being outnumbered by those eager for expansion over preservation loomed large. I worried that without broader support from the community or compelling arguments about our family's legacy, we might lose this fight before it even began. Throughout this turmoil, I remained resolute that preserving our family's history would not just benefit us but also safeguard a piece of what made our community unique, a story worth telling not only for ourselves but for future generations yet to come. As plans progressed toward potential approval, I felt an urgency grow within me. If we were to protect what mattered most, we needed to act swiftly and decisively before it slipped away forever. As the urgency around the impending housing development intensified, I decided to dig deeper into my family's history, hoping to find any documentation or records that might help our case against the HOA. My father had always mentioned that our land came with its own secrets, and it was time for me to uncover those hidden stories. While rummaging through old boxes in the attic, filled with dusty photos and weathered letters, I stumbled upon a leather-bound journal belonging to my great-grandfather. As I opened the journal, its musty smell filled the air, accompanied by the gentle crackle of aged pages. This was no ordinary diary. Within its entries lay accounts of life on the homestead, but also references to something called the trap. Curious about this mysterious mention, I dove deeper into his writings. The trap was not a physical contraption as one might imagine, rather, it referred to a legally binding agreement involving the land, a covenant made over a century ago. According to my great-grandfather's meticulous notes, he had feared potential encroachments from future developments and thus devised this agreement as a safeguard. The trap was designed to ensure that any form of development would face strict regulations intended to maintain an ecological balance and protect historical landmarks on the property. My heart raced as I absorbed each word. This ancient document could be crucial in contesting the HOA's plans. The implications of this discovery were enormous. If this covenant still held legal standing, if it had somehow been preserved through generations, it could serve as our defense against the HOA's encroachment. It also opened up questions regarding how much influence our family still wielded over this land. With renewed hope, we gathered for an urgent family meeting to discuss what I had found. As I explained each detail from the journal, excitement rippled through our group. What had initially felt like an inevitable loss now transformed into a potential opportunity. We quickly realized that we needed legal counsel to interpret the trap correctly and determine its enforceability in modern circumstances. Consulting with an attorney who specialized in property law became imperative as we sought advice on how best to leverage this newfound knowledge against the HOA's expansive development aspirations. However, while one door seemed to open with promise, another loomed ominously ahead. If this covenant was indeed actionable, it could lead to contentious legal battles that might draw unwanted attention and animosity not only between us and the HOA but perhaps within our own community as well. Still, armed with my great-grandfather's foresight and determination resonating within me, I felt empowered. This legacy wasn't merely a relic of history, it was also a weapon we could use in our fight for preservation. As frustrations mounted around us daily with development chatter buzzing on every street corner and natural sounds of home being drowned out by construction rumors, learning about the trap reminded us all that sometimes history has unexpected ways of fighting back against change. With the trap now a central element in our fight against the HOA's development plans, the next logical step was to thoroughly analyze the legal landscape surrounding our land. I enlisted the help of a property lawyer, Ms. Lawson, whose experience in navigating complex property rights would prove invaluable. In our initial meeting, we discussed not only the covenant my great-grandfather had written but also how it interacted with existing property deeds and local zoning laws. Ms. Lawson explained that our family's ownership history was crucial. Clear titles and documentation of the land's transfer through generations would be paramount to asserting our rights. She reviewed old title deeds I had managed to gather from the county records office, noting any discrepancies or relevant clauses that could bolster our position. We need to show an unbroken chain of ownership, she advised, her brow furrowed in concentration as she sifted through the documents. The attorney also highlighted potential complications arising from the HOA's plans. If their development project proceeded without regard to our claims, it could lead to future disputes over boundaries and land use rights. The HOA might argue that they had no knowledge of the trap, insisting that their plans complied with current zoning regulations, which appeared to favor residential expansion. Our conversation turned toward how best to leverage the trap legally. Ms. Lawson noted that if we could establish its enforceability, it would impose strict limitations on any development activities on our land without family consent. This would not only challenge the HOA's project but also signify a broader legal precedent for preserving historical landmarks within the community. However, she cautioned us about the potential backlash we might face from the community and even other family members who might see this as an obstruction to progress. The tension between development and preservation was palpable in town, and many residents were eager for new housing options. We had to navigate this delicate balance carefully. Determined to solidify our case, we began compiling evidence of community support for preserving local history. I reached out to neighbors and friends who had lived near us long enough to appreciate the cultural significance of our homestead. Gathering testimonials from respected community members about our family's contributions provided additional weight to our argument. As we prepared for upcoming meetings with both the HOA and potential local government hearings, I realized how critical it was not just to defend our family legacy but also to frame this struggle as a fight for preserving a piece of community identity against rampant development. The legal complications ahead felt daunting. Every piece of evidence had to be meticulously organized, every argument carefully crafted. Yet armed with newfound knowledge about property rights and bolstered by my family's shared resolve, I felt more confident than ever that we could mount an effective defense against encroachment on our history, one that respected both past traditions and future possibilities within our community. The stakes were high, but so too was our commitment to safeguarding what had been entrusted to us across generations. As the community became aware of the HOA's ambitious plans to build 156 homes, reactions varied widely, revealing deep divides among residents. Some were enthusiastic about the development, seeing it as a necessary step toward addressing the housing crisis that had gripped our town. Eager young families and new residents voiced their support, envisioning modern homes and vibrant neighborhoods where their children could grow up. "We need this," they argued at community meetings. "New houses mean new families and economic growth." Their enthusiasm was palpable, reflecting a yearning for progress and change. However, as the public discourse unfolded, Whispers began to circulate about our family's history and the legal protections offered by the trap. Those who understood the cultural significance of our land began to rally around us, concerned that the development could erase a piece of local heritage. Longtime neighbors who had witnessed our family's stewardship over the land reached out, offering their support and sharing their own memories of its importance. They remembered community gatherings on our property, the stories of my great-grandparents, and the traditions that had unfolded beneath the oaks. As my family organized meetings to discuss our strategy against the HOA, more allies emerged from unexpected places. Local historians and preservationists joined our cause, eager to protect what they viewed as vital to the community's identity. They delivered impassioned speeches at town forums, reminding residents that progress does not have to come at the expense of history. Development should enhance our community, not erase its roots, one historian articulated passionately. Yet with this growing support came vocal opposition. Some residents criticized our efforts, claiming we were obstructing progress for selfish reasons. A few even labeled our family's preservation efforts as a form of elitism, arguing that we were prioritizing nostalgia over practical needs. The tension escalated when local newspapers began covering the story, headlines framing us as traditionalists clashed against narratives glorifying development as a solution to housing shortages. Recognizing the necessity for a united front, we strategized how best to communicate our position. During community meetings, we focused not only on legal arguments but also on shared values, reminding others that protecting our land was not solely about us, it was also about preserving a legacy for future generations. We invited community members to visit our property, share meals under the old trees, and see firsthand the beauty we fought to preserve. In preparing for upcoming public hearings, I felt a growing sense of responsibility not only to defend my family's heritage but also to seek common ground within our community. This struggle was no longer just about my family, it transformed into a shared dialogue about how we wanted our town to evolve. As I stood on the cusp of this conflict, I understood that navigating these relationships would be just as crucial as arguing legalities. Finding allies among those who might initially oppose us could ultimately lead to a resolution that honored both history and progress, a bridge between past and future in an ever-changing landscape. As I delved deeper into the implications of the trap, it became clear that this covenant, crafted over a century ago, was not just a safeguard but also a double-edged sword that could shape both our family's future and the community's development trajectory. My great-grandfather had designed the trap to protect our land against unwanted encroachments, ensuring that as urban growth surged over time, his descendants would have a say in how their heritage was treated. Investigating further into the covenant's wording revealed its intricate stipulations. It was not simply an obstacle for developers but also a means of maintaining ecological integrity on the property. The regulations set forth by my ancestors necessitated that any development take into account historical landmarks and native habitats, preserving large swaths of greenery while allowing for responsible land use. This foresight was intended to nurture harmony between nature and human expansion, fostering a balance that prioritized quality of life for both current and future generations. Yet, as we considered using the trap legally, I couldn't help but feel its consequences were multifaceted. While it provided protections that could hinder the HOA's project, it also imposed limitations that could discourage beneficial developments within our community. There was a potential risk that enforcing the covenant might lead to opposition not just from developers but from residents who yearned for progress, homes with modern amenities and services. The conversations held at town meetings began to echo this tension. Many residents clung to narratives where history could become an anchor rather than an impediment. Additionally, I realized the trap did more than just dictate land use, it crystallized our family's relationship with the community around us. While heritage and preservation were pillars in our family's identity, they may have seemed antiquated to newcomers pushing for modernity. It dawned on me how much history could be perceived differently depending on one's individual narrative. Some saw nostalgia as sentimentality rather than intrinsic value. As I reflected on these complexities, allies from local historical societies urged us to frame our battle not just in legal terms but also as part of an ongoing dialogue about identity in our town, a conversation bridging past traditions with contemporary needs. They encouraged us to engage residents by publicizing examples from other communities where historical preservation enhanced appeal without stifling growth. Standing at this crossroads, I understood that effectively communicating why the trap mattered would be pivotal for garnering broader support. My family's story, entrenched in hardship yet rich with vision, needed to resonate beyond just property lines. It had to become emblematic of what drew people together in pursuit of shared living spaces amidst growth pressures. Ultimately, negotiating these intricate realities would define not only the outcome of this conflict but influence how future generations would remember this chapter in our community's evolution, whether history would serve as a burden or a guiding light through the fog of development's temptations. In harnessing both rationale and emotions surrounding the trap, perhaps we could forge connections vital for reimagining heritage as we sought solutions that honored both legacy and aspiration moving forward. As the conflict between our family and the Homeowners Association, HOA, intensified, we realized that negotiating a resolution would be essential for protecting our heritage while addressing the community's need for development. Armed with the trap and the support of local residents, we decided to approach the HOA with a proposal that prioritized collaboration rather than confrontation. In preparing our strategy, we focused on open communication, aiming to foster a dialogue where both sides could express their concerns and aspirations. My parents and I drafted a comprehensive presentation outlining our family's history, the significance of our land, and the protective measures inherent in the covenant. We emphasized that preserving our heritage did not preclude progress, rather, it could inform responsible and meaningful development that honored our community's past. To make our case compelling, we invited key members of the HOA to a gathering at our property. We envisioned this as an opportunity for them to experience firsthand what was at stake: the lush greenery, historical landmarks, and familial ties that had flourished for generations. We set up a picnic under the shade of the ancient oaks, shared stories about my great-grandparents' vision for the land, and highlighted how their foresight could serve as a model for future developments. This personal touch aimed to humanize our struggle and showcase the intrinsic value of preserving history. During discussions with HOA representatives, we proposed a compromise. Instead of bulldozing sections of our land for new homes, we suggested incorporating a small number of homes on adjacent parcels while ensuring preservation zones were clearly defined. This would allow for ecological corridors and community parks that maintained green space while accommodating housing needs. By framing this approach as beneficial for both parties, we hoped to address their urgency for development while safeguarding our family's legacy. The response was mixed. Some members of the HOA resonated with our plea for preservation, recognizing the unique opportunity to integrate history into modern living. However, others remained skeptical, viewing any compromise as an obstacle to their larger plans. Tensions flared, but amid these disagreements, we committed to maintaining a respectful tone and emphasizing collaboration over contention. After several rounds of negotiations, it became apparent that patience was essential. We agreed to form a joint committee comprising representatives from both sides to facilitate ongoing discussions. This committee would work together to explore creative solutions that balanced preservation with development goals. Simultaneously, we ramped up community engagement by hosting open forums where residents could voice their opinions about both sides' proposals. This ensured transparency in our efforts and cultivated broader public support. I saw how building bridges within our community became just as important as negotiating with the HOA. By highlighting shared values and fostering unity among neighbors, we began creating a collective vision that honored both heritage and progress. Through this journey of negotiation and dialogue, I learned that protecting history didn't mean resisting change, it meant finding innovative ways to weave the past into the fabric of our evolving community. As we continued this delicate dance with the HOA, I remained hopeful that we could carve out a path that respected both my family's legacy and the desires of those eager for new beginnings. The resolution efforts transformed into an unexpected opportunity for connection, an intricate web where history informed future growth in a collaborative spirit. As I reflected on the ongoing conflict between preserving my family's heritage and accommodating modern development, a complex interplay between history and progress emerged. This situation highlighted broader themes that are increasingly relevant in contemporary society. How do we honor our past while simultaneously paving the way for future growth? The dilemma was not merely about land, it encapsulated the very essence of community identity. Heritage is often viewed as a static entity, a collection of memories and traditions preserved in time. However, my family's battle against the HOA underscored that heritage is dynamic, a living narrative that evolves alongside our environment. The stories embedded in our land, the laughter shared under the oak trees, the celebrations commemorated on the property, are vital threads in the fabric of our community. These connections should inform new developments rather than be overshadowed by them. Living close to nature has always been integral to our family's identity. My great-grandfather envisioned a future where people could coexist harmoniously with the environment. As I navigated this issue, I began to see that environmental considerations should not be an afterthought in the face of modern pressures. The Covenant, which aimed to protect historical landmarks and native habitats, was not just about maintaining aesthetics, it symbolized a commitment to ecological balance that could benefit future generations. Yet, this commitment also posed challenges. Many community members, eager for growth, argued that strict preservation measures could stifle economic opportunities and housing options. The discussion often veered into a confrontation between those who championed brand new developments and others who advocated for the guardianship of historical sites. The contradiction became apparent: can a community truly thrive if it loses sight of its roots? Navigating this opposing sentiment required empathy and strategic dialogue. I realized that to foster understanding among residents, we needed to present preservation not as a barrier to progress but as an integral component of sustainable development. Initiatives that celebrated our history could enhance property values and attract new residents who appreciate the depth of culture woven into the area. Throughout this process, I also came to recognize that development does not inherently equate to destruction. It is possible to cultivate modern amenities while still honoring traditional spaces. For example, creating parks or community centers that reflect local history might serve both purposes, providing recreational areas for families while also celebrating our shared past. The journey ahead felt daunting yet crucial. As I prepared for upcoming public hearings and community meetings, I embraced the responsibility of conveying how interconnected our history and future potentially are. Narratives need not diverge, instead, they can intertwine seamlessly. By fostering an inclusive dialogue that engaged every stakeholder, from developers to heritage advocates, we could collectively envision a path forward. Ultimately, this experience has taught me that heritage is not merely something we preserve, it is a foundation upon which we build our future. The challenge lies in how to balance respect for our past with a commitment to growth that benefits all in our community. As we navigated these challenges, I found strength in knowing that protecting our history could be the catalyst for forging a richer, more vibrant future for generations to come. In reflecting on the journey my family undertook to protect our heritage against the HOA's development plans, several key resolutions emerged that not only preserved our land but also offered invaluable insights for others facing similar challenges. The experience taught us the importance of understanding one's land rights and the power of community engagement in navigating conflicts between preservation and development. First and foremost, we learned that knowledge is a powerful tool. Discovering the trap was a pivotal moment for our family, showcasing how understanding historical covenants and property laws can empower landowners. This insight is crucial for anyone facing similar disputes. Knowing the legal protections available can significantly influence the outcome of a conflict. We realized that many property owners might be unaware of the potential safeguards embedded in their land's history, and this knowledge can be instrumental in defending against encroachments. Additionally, we recognized the importance of open communication and collaboration. Rather than viewing the HOA solely as an adversary, we approached them with a mindset aimed at finding common ground. This shift in perspective proved beneficial, allowing us to propose compromises that acknowledged both our family's legacy and the community's needs. For future homeowners facing similar dilemmas, fostering dialogue rather than animosity can lead to innovative solutions that respect historical significance while accommodating modern growth. Engaging with the community played a vital role in our resolution efforts. By hosting forums and inviting public discussions, we created opportunities for residents to express their opinions, share personal stories tied to our land, and understand the value of preserving local heritage. This approach not only built solidarity but also transformed our struggle into a collective endeavor, emphasizing that preservation is not just about one family's history, it's about safeguarding a community's identity. Furthermore, we learned that heritage can coexist with development when approached thoughtfully. Our proposal for preservation zones alongside new developments illustrated how ecological integrity and modern living can be woven together. This realization highlighted an essential takeaway: development does not have to equate to destruction, rather, it can enhance community appeal while honoring its roots. As we navigated the complexities of our situation, I discovered resilience in advocating for what mattered most: our family's legacy and the broader historical narrative of our community. This journey underscored the value of patience and perseverance. Negotiations took time, but they ultimately led us to a resolution that respected both our heritage and the aspirations of others. In conclusion, my family's experience taught us that protecting land is more than just defending property. It is about preserving stories, nurturing connections, and fostering a sense of belonging within a community. The lessons learned through this conflict serve as a guiding light for others facing similar challenges, reminding us that by understanding our rights, engaging collaboratively, and valuing our shared history, we can create a future that honors both heritage and progress. As we move forward together, these principles will continue to shape not only our family's narrative but also the vibrant tapestry of our community.